The story that I'm about to tell you is one of struggle, resistance, victory, and survival. It is the story of an iconic Jamaican maroon warrior woman called Nanny. But before we dive into it, please take the time to like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and share with your friends. Let's do this. In the early hours of December 1704, a group of around 600 Jamaican Maroons set out from their town along the coast near Port Royal, now a part of Kingston. In single file and armed with cutlasses and muskets, they were on a mission to attack the settlement in St. Thomas, in the east. Along with them went a woman carrying a white flag, and she was going to be instrumental in the outcome of what happened next. Her name was Nanny, and she would become one of the most important figures in the history of Jamaica and a symbol of strength and independence for generations to come. At the time, Jamaica was still a Spanish colony, and the majority of its land was owned by two groups: the English settlers who lived mostly in the west of the island, and the Spaniards who were located in the east. The reason why the two were able to coexist on the same island is because of the Treaty of Madrid signed between Spain and England in 1697, which allowed for peaceful coexistence on the island. However, when English privateers began attacking and pillaging on Spanish settlements in the west of the island, the treaty was quickly forgotten, and the two sides found themselves at war. The hostilities led to the death of many Spanish colonists and the destruction of numerous settlements and plantations. To escape the violence, many surviving Spaniards fled to the mountains where they could find refuge among the indigenous Arawak tribes, who had escaped slavery and formed independent communities. The Spanish were also pushed further into the mountains by another group, the Maroons, descendants of Africans who had escaped the brutal conditions of working on sugar plantations. The Maroons had been living independently for years and developed strong military skills through constant battles with rival groups trying to dominate them. These three groups would join forces in the east of the island and launch attacks against the English settlers in an attempt to reclaim and keep control over the land they once lived on. By the beginning of the 18th century, the Maroons had become a threat to the English, and attempts to pacify them failed. So the English decided to fight back. They sent soldiers to capture or kill the Maroon leaders. One of these leaders was a man named Cujo, who was captured and killed by the British in 1705. With their main leader gone, the English believed that the rebellion would fizzle out, but they were wrong. The Maroons had other plans. The mission, led by Nanny and the other Maroons, was not just a raid, it was an all-out assault on the heart of the British presence on the island. As they approached the settlement, Nanny raised the white flag, signaling a temporary ceasefire. When the British saw the flag, they assumed that the Maroons had come to surrender, and this made them lower their guard. Nanny used this moment to her advantage. She took a few of her warriors and snuck into the settlement while the rest of the Maroons laid in wait. Once inside, Nanny's team stole food, supplies, and weapons, giving them much-needed resources for the coming fight. As dawn broke, the rest of the Maroons attacked, catching the British completely off guard. What followed was a massacre. The Maroons were led by Kudo's brother Carabassa and his second-in-command, the legendary Nanny. They fought with the fury of those who had nothing left to lose, and they were unstoppable. The British were demoralized and unprepared and soon found themselves overwhelmed. The battle lasted only about an hour, after which the Maroons had defeated the British and taken control of the settlement. They burned down homes, destroyed crops, and confiscated livestock, leaving the settlers with nothing but their lives. Nanny's tactical brilliance and courage were evident to all, even their enemies. The British settlers began referring to her as the female Amazon, a testament to her fearsome reputation as a warrior. When news of the massacre reached other settlements, it sent shockwaves through the English population. They had never seen anything like this before, and they began calling for reinforcements from Europe. Realizing that they were outnumbered and outgunned, the Maroons retreated to the Blue Mountains, where they knew the terrain like the back of their hands. Here they regrouped and prepared for the inevitable showdown with the British. The British were determined to crush the rebellion once and for all. They assembled a force of over 2,000 soldiers and set off in pursuit of the Maroons. Once again, the Maroons were led by Carabassa and Nanny, who used hit-and-run tactics to evade the larger force. They ambushed supply lines, destroyed plantations, and harassed the troops, all the while remaining just out of the soldiers' reach. This went on for months, and the British were becoming frustrated and demoralized. They were losing valuable supplies and men, and they didn't know where the Maroons were or how to stop them. Realizing that conventional warfare was not working, the British came up with a new plan. They offered the Maroons a deal, promising them freedom and land if they would lay down their arms and surrender. Most of the Maroons accepted the offer and moved to the west of the island, where the British built towns specifically for them. But Nanny refused to give up. She continued to lead her followers in guerrilla attacks against the British, refusing to surrender despite being heavily outnumbered and outgunned. She and her followers lived in the mountains, surviving off the land and striking fear into the hearts of the British. She remained undefeated in battle, and her bravery inspired others to resist the British. After Nanny's death in 1730, her legacy continued to live on. The Maroons kept fighting for their freedom, and eventually in 1739, they won a decisive victory against the British in the First Maroon War. This victory led to the signing of the first peace treaty between the Maroons and the British in 1739. This treaty gave the Maroons full ownership of their lands and recognition as free people. Nanny's legacy continued to live on long after her death. She became a symbol of strength and independence for the Maroons and other Jamaicans. Her image has been used on stamps, coins, and banknotes, and there are statues and monuments dedicated to her throughout the country. Nania's story is an important part of Jamaican history, and her bravery and determination continue to inspire people today. Now, if you want to learn more about Nani and her people, I highly recommend checking out the series linked below. It is incredibly well done, and goes into much more detail about this amazing woman and her impact on history. Again, thank you so much for watching. Please take the time to like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and share with your friends. For the month of October, I'll be doing Jamaica history. And until next time, stay awesome.